What's the deal with what chance? I'm just no intro. Why? Where? How did we get here? What chance have to be the thing that drives me the most insane, even as someone who hasn't had to listen to it for very long? So I understand that it comes from Stone Cold Steve Austin. He started it, but why? How? What was the context? How did he use it? Was it the same way that fans use it right now? Was it just to interrupt promos? Did he also do it during promos? How could something like that have caught on to the point where everybody I ask online says that they hate what chance, but yet somehow arena after arena after arena, 20, 30, whatever thousand people are whatting promos? So everybody online I'm talking to hates it, but everybody that goes to shows still does it. Where's the disconnect here? And I know what you're gonna say. Go ahead, just, you can still say it. That's fine. The comment will help. That's fine. I get it. US crowds suck. I get it. The international crowds are fantastic, and US crowds just what? Because they suck. But that's such a boring answer. Let's dig deeper. Tell me there's got to be at least one. If even 1,000 people, if 1,000 people see this video, one of you has to be able to tell me why you like doing what chance. And it's fine. I'm not going to attack you. I will disagree with you, probably. I'll be open-minded, but there has to be some of you watching this video completely disagreeing with me, and that's who I want to hear from right now on this first question. What do you like about what chance? Is it just fun? Do you just find it humorous? And honestly, I'll accept that answer. That's better than a lot of what I feel like I've heard online. But if you are someone who goes to shows and you actively want to do the what chant, no matter who it is, or are you targeting a certain type of promo? Educate me. I can't speak for anybody else in the comments. I can only ask that we do not attack anyone who says, hey, I love the what chance and here's why. But I also want to know, how did we get here? It clearly, it didn't happen overnight. So what? Stone Cold Steve Austin started doing it in a certain context that I'm hoping you will fulfill, and the crowds just thought it was hilarious, or was it super hype? Tell me how we got here. I am willing to hear the opinions of those who love it, and I'm willing to listen to how we got to this point so I can maybe understand why there are fans that still attach to this. But as someone who's only been watching wrestling for a year and a half, I don't get it. It feels disrespectful. It feels like it derails promos. It comes off to me like the crowd isn't listening to the promo, or like they're bored. Is that it? All right, my next question is a little less aggressive. As a wrestling fan, how important is it to you that your wrestler gets a title? Now, I don't mean a push. I mean specifically, think of whoever your favorite wrestler is right now. How important is it that they get a title? The reason I ask this is because I see so many scenarios and so many people that say that wrestlers, they lose a lot of their momentum once they've achieved their title, that so many popular wrestlers are just more entertaining on the chase, you know, when they're in pursuit of that title. And a big example I've heard of that has been Cody Rhodes. And of course, his post-championship run has not pleased everybody, so naturally he's been someone that people have pointed to as someone who was way better, as someone who was trying to obtain the title rather than defend the title. But then I look over at someone like LA Knight. Do you expect that's going to be different than Cody Rhodes? Do you expect that? Think of how much hype LA Knight had behind him and how much people loved him, the pop he got every time his music hit. That only kind of slowed down. It barely did. You wouldn't have even noticed if you weren't comparing it directly to maybe a year ago. Are you worried at all that someone like LA Knight would suffer from this issue where the hype behind him might die out a little bit because now he's got the title? But don't let that secondary question distract you, because I'm really curious about the first thing I asked. Are you cool with your wrestler just being constantly on TV, or constantly in the conversation with the other main eventers, or just constantly being used in an entertaining way? I'll admit, I would love to be able to say I don't need my favorite wrestler to need a title, but I feel like at the bare minimum for me is I need my wrestler to be in the conversation. I'm not saying they need to constantly be the number one contender, but I like the idea of them consistently competing for that number one contendership. Or I at least need them to be in some sort of feud that I can sink my teeth into. For instance, Bayley losing the title isn't the end of the world for me. I'm hoping this results in her maybe finding a way to get into some sort of a feud and resolve the previous issues between her and Dakota Kai. But I also have heard a lot of people treat these wrestlers like sports teams, and they need them to have a winning record, you know, for them to like them. They need their wrestler to win more than they lose. I mentioned earlier that I've been watching wrestling for a year and a half now, and I feel like I have gained so much knowledge in that time, and a big part of it is thanks to the Patreon. Those of you who are already there, you know that we've watched almost 100 matches together, where I've asked you a bunch of questions over there about things that I've seen and didn't quite understand, and you guys have been sure to send me a ton of matches and a bunch of match suggestions that have carried my knowledge at an elite speed compared to someone just watching casually. So I sincerely thank you for doing that. If you'd like to be a part of that, I have free content over on the Patreon. You're welcome to check that out and decide if maybe the paid content might be for you. I post over there just about every single day, oftentimes more than once per day. So check it out, join the Discord, follow me on Twitch, follow me everywhere. I'm always interacting with you guys in some place or another every day of the week. Back to the video. You'll notice a lot of these questions are clearly stemming from previous things that I've spoken about, and this next one is no different. Now, if you haven't already seen it, I did a video on when I went to WrestleCon, and I had a fairly underwhelming experience if you don't feel like going and watching that. So my question is, for wrestling fans, is there a WrestleCon equivalent by another name? Is there another type of traveling wrestling type show? Because I'm fully aware that WrestleCon isn't like owned or produced by the WWE. At least I think so. I assume they're not. And I know WWE they're doing this Fanatics thing that's coming up. I've heard of WWE World, but is there another third party just traveling wrestling fan convention show, something that travels around just to go to, with maybe some vendors and meet and greets, or just stuff like I saw at WrestleCon, but better? I ask this because I want to go. I want to go be around wrestling fans. I want to go do these things that wrestling fans do. And I like the idea of seeing previous wrestlers speak, or vendors and collectibles and just stuff to shop around. I didn't really get that from WrestleCon, and I don't see me being able to go to WWE World or this Fanatics thing that's coming up. So I'm hoping there is something more in the realm of affordability and accessibility like WrestleCon was. These don't need to be huge, by the way. This can just be, I don't know, it could be just something that has a Facebook group. Well, aged myself, sorry. I meant to say they could have a Snapchat group, or anything where they have people sticking together and traveling and doing something. I want to go, and just Googling it doesn't really help. I tried. My next question is for those of you who frequently, or maybe not even frequently, but once in a while you go to shows. This can be a house show, this could be AEW, this could be New Japan, TNA, doesn't matter. Any show where you could encounter signage, like signs people are holding up with wrestler's name on it or whatever. As someone who likes to bring a sign sometimes to a show, what are your thoughts as someone who doesn't? Like, I understand there might be some of you that say, no signs. I want to be able to see the whole thing. But realistically, signs are a pretty big part of wrestling, and I feel like it always will be. So I'm not even going to really have the conversation of should signs be allowed. This is more of a conversation of what's good sign etiquette. Are entrances okay? Mid-match feels like it almost guarantee keep the sign down, but maybe right before the match when they're announcing names, afterwards when the winner has been awarded and the refs holding their arm up. When do you feel like, as someone, let's say you're going to a show and you are someone without a sign, even if you're someone who doesn't like signs at all, when would you be okay with the guy in front of you picking up his sign and cutting off your vision? Again, it might be easy to say never, I want to see the whole thing, but let's be realistic here. Signs aren't going anywhere. So if you were going to pick a time that feels the most reasonable, even for just a few seconds, what feels right for holding up a sign? Now, I've got a part 2 to this one that's very similar to the whole signs thing. What about kids? Don't attack me. I get it. This is for kids. This show is mostly for kids, and then you grow up and you either stick with it or whatever. I found it in my 30s, so I don't know what to tell you. I went to a show, it was specifically a Raw show, and a father in front of me, their kid, they had brought their kid, and the kid couldn't see. Floor seats, they're all level. A kid's not gonna be able to see over the adult in front of him. This dad had 2 solutions, and I wanna know how you feel about either of them. Sometimes the kid would stand on his chair. The parent would say, hey, stand on the chair, you'll be able to see. But when they're standing up on the chair, they are completely blocking Tally's view. Now, yes, now the child can see, and you could be happy that the child can see the show, but we obviously paid for our tickets, so Tally no longer being able to see the show because, in my opinion, a father who probably misjudged how well his kid would be able to see is now blocking that vision. Security eventually came by and told them that the kid had to sit down, or couldn't stand on the chair rather, specifically said can't stand on the chair. So the dad's solution was to put his kid on his own shoulders. Now I can't see. Now I'm sitting behind the guy and a kid on top. I can't really see much of anything. Now, thankfully, that second part definitely didn't last that long. Security once again said, no, that you can't do that. But let's say security didn't get involved, because at first security didn't get involved for a while and we didn't say anything because I was definitely held back by this thought of it's a kid. I mean, I guess if one, without any outside knowledge, if a third party saw this, they would say they'd probably rather the kid be able to see than me. But as a person who saved up a lot for those tickets, it was very frustrating to feel like I would look like the a-hole if I said, hey, the kid is standing and is blocking all of our view. How do I put this? I'm looking for validation. Would I have been in the right to say, hey, can the kids sit down? I feel pretty good that I didn't say anything. I didn't start any trouble and security took care of it. But are there some of you that think I should, in that moment, I should just suck it up and the kid should, I don't know. If, you know, when I say it out loud, it sounds like I'm definitely in the right when I'm about to say the kid has more of a right to see it than I do. But I don't think this is between me and the kid. I feel like this is the dad's fault, right? He screwed this up. Clearly his intentions were good. I'm not saying he sucks or anything, but this whole situation falls on him, right? This isn't me. I shouldn't have to deal with this. Don't get mad. I didn't yell at the kid. I didn't say anything to the kid. Security did it and it's fine. I didn't tell security either. I promise I don't hate kids or anything. I just wanted to see the show and I'm very glad that security said something. Okay, this last one's for the real ones. And by real ones, I mean the ones that made it this far into the video. I kind of want to take a little survey and I'm going to try to pull this information from the comments. Maybe I'll wait like 48 hours or maybe even a week after this has gone up to try to get the best results. I want to know, if you could move the numbers around to explain it, how would you put together your perfect wrestler in terms of importance? I'm going to give you 3 factors and you tell me out of 100%, how do you allocate the importance between these 3? Your 3 categories are in-ring performance, promo ability / interesting factor. So for that one, just combine promo ability and whether or not they're interesting or how interesting they are. And the third one is visually, their looks. I don't mean do you find them attractive? I mean, do they look cool? I mean, it could be attractive. This is subjective to all of us. So whatever is important to you looks wise. Do you want them to be super hot? Do you want them to look super muscular? Whatever. I'm not asking you exactly that. I'm asking you what percentage of that takes up your importance of a wrestler. In case that was confusing, I'll give you my answer and I'll do it visually. For me, I'm going to give a whopping 50% of importance to their character, their interest factor, their promo, that whole thing. I want them to be interesting to listen to or a good speaker or keep me engaged with their story. I'm going to give 30% to the in-ring ability because it's not quite as important, but it's fairly close. I need to be entertained somewhat in the ring, but it's still way more important that their motivation for why they're fighting in the first place keeps me intrigued. And then I'll give the last 20% to their looks, and I'll give the last 20% to how they look visually. But for me, that more so means their gear, their presentation, maybe their Tron, just how they look when they enter. Heck, maybe you can even group in entrance with looks. Maybe we'll just call that presentation instead of look. So 50, 30, 20. Feel free to put that in a comment, preferably in the same order. It'll make it really easy when I go through later to try to grab these numbers. So try to do it in that order of promo, in-ring, and presentation. Let's call it that. And just for fun, after like a week, I might go through, collect all these numbers, and then I'll share it in the Discord what I found of what this community seems to prefer. And I think that would be kind of interesting. And lastly, if you have a question for me for the first 24 hours that this video was up, I'm happy to answer whatever random questions that maybe kind of fit the theme of what we're talking about. I'll go down to the comments, I'll look for any, and I'll be sure to answer them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I can't wait to be down in the comments talking with you guys. Thank you to the patrons that are flying up the screen. I will see you guys in the next video.